Welcome back to the channel. Today, I want to show you guys what I do exactly when I mock up my bodies and my suspensions chassis on my car. I've already put together this rear axle and got all the pieces together so that I can use it for a mock-up, and it will be disassembled for painting once I get ready to do all that. Here's the front K-member. This is a tubular K-member that comes with the kit. It's already got the spindle attached to it, and that spindle will more than likely be removed and replaced with something else. The kit also comes with a stock style K-member as well, depending on what you want to use. So here's the chassis. Chassis very nice. So what I do, guys, is I just take my suspensions and put them in the chassis just to kind of see how they're going to sit, just to see maybe what kind of ride height I can get out of the factory setup. Put the wheel and tire on it just to kind of see where it would land in the wheel well. Guys, what I use is Mod Podge when I mock up my suspensions. So I just take a very little amount of Mod Podge and dab it on there, and I'm installing the spring now. So I'm going to go ahead and mock up the factory suspension with all the factory components just to kind of see the ride height that the factory suspension setup gives me. But this Mod Podge is great because once you're done mocking up, you can just remove it, and the Mod Podge can be peeled off, and you can just use real glue at that point. So guys, I got the body here. What I do typically is I'll take my wheel and tire setup that I'm going to use for the build, and then I take some things that I have laying around that I can just kind of put under the body to mock up a suspension setup to see to give me an idea of the ride height that I want. So that first item I used was too tall. So I went back to my stash and just found something else that I can use to mock up the body to give me um, something close to what I'm looking for. Well, that's still a little too low. So I'm going to go back to my stash and find something else to get me a little bit higher. And you can tell by looking at it, it's got a pretty good amount of tire tuck, but that's just too low for what I want to do with this build. So I went back to my stash and I did find a little piece of cardboard that I put under there to get me a little more ride height. And I think this is pretty close to what I'm looking for. And I did put a piece under the front bumper too to raise it slightly. The front may come up a little bit on my final build, but this is very close to the ride height that I'm looking for. All right, guys, so I'm ready to get the suspension installed, rear axle installed. So I've got some Mod Podge there. Go ahead and set this in place. And again, I'm using all the factory components here. Factory springs, I have not cut those or adjusted those yet. So that I can see with the factory springs installed, kind of where that tire is going to land in the fender well. Some point, I'm probably going to need to remove that spring and cut it to get it a little bit lower. That's how I'm going to be able to adjust that rear ride height, is by cutting the rear springs. Okay, so we're going to move to the front suspension. Again, I'm going to use this tubular K-arm that came in the kit is what I'm going to use for this build. So I'm going to go ahead and get it in place again with the factory struts that came in the kit. I have not cut those or adjusted those. Everything I'm using at this point is just the factory components to see how my suspension setup is going to look. So there we go. After we kind of got everything dried up, got my factory components in, my struts, the spindles, everything up here is factory at this point. Same thing with the rear. So with wheels and tires on it, factory suspension mocked up, this is what I've got, guys. Not the ride height I'm looking for. So I already know I'm going to have to do some adjustment, but being able to mock it up with the factory suspension, I can tell what I need to do and how much I need to adjust the suspension to get it down to where I wanted it earlier in the video. I got too much gap here with the tire and the fender well, same thing in the front. So I'm going to get those tires and wheels tucked up in the fenders more than they are right now. Okay, so now I know what I've got to do. I've pulled the rear springs out of the back, and I just set the axle directly down on the frame as far as I could get it, just to see if that's going to give me close to the ride height I want, which I think it is. But that's what I'm going to go with right now. And then once I do that, I can adjust the springs. On the front, you can see here that I cut off the factory spindles that were on the end of the control arms. And I did make some new new spindles out of styrene. And you can see, compared to the old spindles, those black dots symbolize where I'm going to put the new spindle. So I took some aluminum tubing, cut it, and it will fit inside that that factory spindle that came in the kit for the wheel, and then I'll install that piece of tubing into that styrene that I cut. So that way the wheel spindle will fit inside that piece. And then I will glue that directly to the control arm. Okay guys, so here it is. After I've got everything mocked up with the ride height I believe I need. I've got the springs pulled out of the back, got it as low as I can get it on the rear. I also cut the tubs out of the rear, the upper parts of the tubs, just to give that upper tire more clearance, because I did have some interference there when I fit the wheel and tire on the chassis. The front, you can see I did install my new spindles that I dropped, and then I installed my piece of tubing into the spindle for the wheel to fit into. And at this point, I also have cut the strut to the length I need where it'll mount to the bottom of the spindle. So it's all the factory style suspension, guys. I've just modified it to get the ride height that I want. And then you can also see inside here where the spindle mounted to the K member, I did add a piece of styrene to give it some extra strength. And I do have the full interior tub mounted, guys. Again, glued in with a Mod Podge with the dash and the door cards. Because if you don't mock up with the interior tub, that can affect your ride height. So make sure you always do that. Okay, so here we are, guys. This is the ride height that I'm looking for. I think that looks great. That's exactly what I was trying to achieve. Again, that's with all of the modified suspension in place. Got good tuck on the front and rear tires up in the fender well, so I'm really happy with the way that this looks now. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Just make sure you stay tuned to the channel. We're going to progress along with this build. Got some more stuff going on. As always, guys, build models, pet dogs. See ya.